Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Podcast, episode number 61. Joel Maxfield from Matthews, Inc. Big Buck Registry is a virtual museum of hunting stories. We preserve a piece of Americana by interviewing and recording hunters about their hunts and experiences from across the country. And who knows, maybe we'll learn a thing or two along the way that'll help us take our hunt to the next level.
This is Jana Waller from Skullbound TV, and you're listening to my favorite podcast on Stitcher, the Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Podcast.
This is Milo Hansen, and you're listening to the Big Buck Registry, the Big Buck Podcast.
Hey folks, this is Dean Vanier with Northwoods Common Sense, and you're listening to my favorite and most informative hunting podcast show on the internet, Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Podcast.
Welcome to the show. This is Jay Sky, your host of the Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Podcast. I'm psyched that you're joining us again right here on the show. And on the other line, from Ohio, I have my field correspondent from Ohio, Dusty Phillips, and Dusty's already bamming in. What's going on, man? You must be pumped up.
I am. I'm all kinds of jacked up. I really don't know why, but I'm just excited tonight.
Are you?
Yeah.
Would you have a little jolt on the way home or something? Little 5-hour energy.
I've been eating whitetail mineral on my cereal the last few mornings, and I think that makes a difference.
A little dust on your cornflakes.
Yeah, I put a little infraction right there on my cornflakes and eat it. Oh man, this gave me all kinds of energy.
That infraction, man. Well, the deer eat it, dirt and all, so you must slurp the milk when you're done.
I'm telling you, I got my face down there licking the bowl. It's almost whitetail season. Who is not jacked up's what I want to know.
Oh, I know. Isn't that the truth, though? Every day I just walk out of the house and I'm smiling.
I mean, seriously, if you're eating infraction right there in your, it's a whitetail deer mineral, I'm sprinkling it, just about a tablespoon in the morning. That does a hunter just right.
You're not really eating that stuff, are you?
No, but it sounded good.
That does sound awesome. I've been slurping down the apple cider vinegar. I hear it's good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I'm reading Hunt Neck today, right?
Yeah.
Which is your creation.
Dusty Hunt Neck.
Dusty Hunt Neck. And
it's been a good time, man, really.
Yeah. And sometimes they're funny and sometimes I'm like, I don't know what that meant, but it's so odd that it's funny.
Right on. I don't know what it meant, but right. It was right at the moment.
But there was one in particular kind of caught me for a funny today.
Oh, yeah?
It was the one about something about buck bomb. Have you ever sprayed yourself with buck bomb? You might be a hunt neck.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, if you've ever shot yourself with a buck bomb, sprayed it all over you just might be a hunt neck.
All right, so have you actually accidentally sprayed yourself with buck bomb before?
Yeah, actually, I was like, first one I ever used. I was like, man, how's this thing work? So I'm like, there's like a little pull tab, you pop the tab back and push it down and it goes wide open. Well, here I am looking at this thing, so I got it all up the front of my hunting riggings, or right up the chest of it. Man, it stunk like I don't know what it stunk. I thought I got sprayed with a skunk for a minute.
It doesn't smell like regular, deer urine that you'd get in other product jars,
Ugh, I don't know what the smell is in that thing, but I cracked that thing off, shot me right in the chest.
I don't tell a lot of people this, but I did pretty much the same thing. Because it was brand new. You didn't know, how does this work?
Yeah.
You push this thing down, and I thought that if you let up and it released, it would stop. It doesn't. It's not like a little push tab. You push it down, it's locked in, baby. You're getting sprayed.
Oh yeah, I mean it's literally it's wide up. When you click the tab down, there's no letting out of it. It's on. I mean it's pressurized, pure buck urine.
Yep.
I gotta say, Jay, if you've done that, you might be a hunt neck.
I guess I'm a hunt neck, man. I've literally now, I've used it in the past. I've actually shot deer over it, so it does work. But I've pushed it down and then launched it like a hand grenade. Throw it out there as far as I could.
That's some hunt neck stuff right there.
Some real hunt neck stuff. Yep. So, and it drew in the deer. I have to admit.
So you got a good laugh out of that.
I did. It really struck my funny bone. Job well done. So that one was very funny. I was like,
absolutely. Check it out. Dusty Hunt Neck right there on Facebook.
Because I actually did do that once.
It's going to be a lot of experiences that, I'm going to say that everybody at some point in time will live the experience that I'm talking about. I mean, I'm a hunter. You're a hunter. Everybody that joins in on Dusty Hunt Neck is going to be a hunter. And something's going to replay a situation right there in your mind and get you a good laugh. That it's going to happen.
Yep. All right. So here's my question: from the deer that you've seen so far, scouting routinely or just in general observation of areas, maybe driving by a place in your car or whatever, are you seeing more big bucks this year than you did last year, or less?
I want to say more. The crops here, Jay, in Ohio are absolutely thriving. Some of the biggest corn we've seen in years. Soybeans are dang near chest high in areas. The crops here in Ohio is definitely thriving, for the 2014-15 whitetail season. It's going to be, I think there's going to be some record-breaking bucks harvested this season. I got a feeling. I'm seeing some monsters out in the fields. I got a couple on trail camera that, I'm like, wow, from last year to this year, they put on 30-plus inches.
Yep.
It's pretty crazy. I think the moisture and the everything has just been just perfect for some phenomenal antler growth.
Seems that way. I mean, I don't usually see bucks out and about at this time of year. But so far this year, I've seen four, I take it back, 4 different shooter bucks in New Hampshire already.
Right on.
Just,
and that,
driving around.
That's something that, looking back on previous years of me and you knowing each other, that I haven't really seen any buck footage come up on your Facebook and stuff.
Exactly.
It just wasn't there for you to, take advantage of getting a video or snapping a picture.
Just never had it. This year I've had several opportunities and captured a couple, and then just on the way home I'm starting to see some small bucks too, but it seems like everything I'm seeing are bucks. It used to be it's just doe everywhere, but now, for whatever reason, this year it's Buck City.
Well, like I said, I think that, it's the weeds for one are higher. Like you drive here where normally it would be kind of a low weed covered grassy field.
Yep.
The weeds are taller and they feel more comfortable. Just what I'm observing here in Ohio is that areas that I hadn't seen deer before, bucks in particular, the weeds, the honeysuckle, all the undergrowth has gotten larger. So the bucks feel more comfortable coming out in. We've had the rain to make some phenomenal CRP fields, and where it was short last year, it's tall this year, and it's almost the comfort zones opened up for them. They're coming out in there.
I have to admit that we're not a crop state necessarily, but the crops that are grown, corn for cattle and things like that, for basically milk farms, the corn this year is taller than I've ever seen it. It's kind of a similar experience.
Yeah, dairy farms there, are pretty common, and they, definitely corn here in Ohio, and it sounds like corn in New Hampshire. We're actually I walked in the field but 3 or 4 days ago. I just want to see what the interior ears look like on the corn, and I walked in, I was like, there ain't no ears on none of this corn. Well, I'm 6 foot, about 1, maybe 6'2" on a good day.
Right?
How big a boy are you? But I walked in there, and the corn was actually 6 to 8 inches above my head, and I wasn't seeing it until I got to looking. I'm like, oh my gosh,
it's way up there.
This corn is huge, And everybody says, oh, what's the ideal corn? Well, the ideal corn is 1 ear, and it's very large. A stalk can grow 20 ears, if it wants to. But ideally, when they make a seed or build a seed, they want 1 ear, one large, very high productive ear.
Right.
One ear feeds the best off the stalk, and that they're shooting for the highest yield out of 1 ear on the stalk. But I think this year they've actually got some phenomenal crops.
Interesting. I'm seeing the same thing, and maybe that's the reason we're seeing deer, because the food's just plentiful. They can go and roam anywhere they want. They're not kind of locked in.
Yeah, I agree to that.
Interesting. All right. Well, I'm getting a feeling, and I don't usually have this feeling at this time of year. I'm getting the feeling it's going to be a very good year across the country, New Hampshire, Ohio. I'm getting a good feel for both of those states to have really good deer seasons this year.
Yeah, and I hope it increases your guys' herds up there in New Hampshire. I want to see you guys harvest 150-inch buck regularly.
That would be cool.
It would be, it just, and all it takes is one phenomenal year to get the right antler growth mixed into the herd, and they start breeding, and that spreads, and next thing you know, your herd's increased by antler, bone mass and size.
Yep.
It would be really good for you guys.
Yeah, that'd be a dream come true for me in New Hampshire. That'd be awesome. Dust, do you ever hang out in a garage?
Absolutely. A garage is somewhere that some phenomenal ideals can spark up.
I agree. I like just hanging out in my garage in general. It just feels like a man type of area. I just hang out. It's dirty. Might be where you hang your deer. All kinds of things. There's just a lot of toys, and it's a little cluttered, that kind of stuff. But garages historically have been places where great businesses are formed.
Yeah, I agree to that. And it's something that, it seems like a garage is not only a laxative to go to the restroom as soon as you go out there, but it's also stimulation for your brain. I swear it is.
It is funny. I think just funny things happen in garages. Great bands, great musicians have formed bands in garages and barns. So there's something special in the Americana about a garage or a barn. And
yeah, I couldn't agree more.
I have to say that today's guest is also from that genre, so to speak, because the person we're speaking with today is Joe Maxfield from Matthews Bows, Inc.
Awesome.
I'm assuming you've heard of Matthews Bows before.
Oh, absolutely. If you haven't heard of a Matthews bow, you ain't been out in the hunt neck world.
Yeah. And as the story goes, they started Matthews in a garage.
That's crazy.
And now they have over 450 employees.
Phenomenal.
And they were definitely one of those companies that revolutionized the bow industry back in the 90s.
Yeah, absolutely. The technology that they come out with back then was pretty impressive.
It was. And it just kind of shocked the bow industry, and it was a big buzz back then. Since then, the competitors have caught up, but they're still staying ahead of the time. And here's the funny thing, is that Matt McPherson, who's really the first person who started it, was with Joel Maxfield in the garage. But Matt is also now making guitars. So it's like this whole musician company, sparked in a garage kind of thing.
Yeah, that's, it's becoming more and more common that huge ideals and huge businesses that are very well established now started in a garage.
Just, you got to love an American garage. I don't know what it is. Let's get Joel on the line.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it. Call him up.
Joel Maxfield, welcome to the Big Buck Registries Big Buck Podcast.
Well, thanks for having me, Jay.
Wow, we're psyched to have you on. It's, I'm a huge fan of Matthews, and I know there are a ton of listeners and a huge part of our audience that are too. I'm sure there's a few that may like other products, but Matthews has, in my mind, revolutionized the bow industry for quite a while, and has stepped up their game, and the competitors had to kind of step up too. So they're a game changer in my mind.
Well, the history of Matthews is very, very humble. It's funny for me because it is a large company today, one of the largest archery manufacturers in the world, and I walk into this facility and see it all in day-to-day life, and it's amazing to me. But the beginnings of Matthews were extremely humble. Like a lot of American successful businesses, it was two guys in a garage.
Tell us a little bit about who you are.
Well, my history in sporting goods stems all the way back to, grade school, and pretty much sporting goods is what I've done. I managed a bow shop. By the time I was 16, 17 years old, I was a manager of the local bow shop, and then went to college. And when I got out of college, I started a retail archery pro shop and ran that for several years. And then leaving the pro shop, I teamed up with Matt when he had McPherson Archery. And then when McPherson sold, we moved it to Alabama, and my wife and I come home from the transition from McPherson of Minnesota to McPherson of Alabama, and then Matt came over to the house and showed me a new design, and we started Matthews.
All right, very cool. Now, what is your position right now with Matthews?
I am currently Vice President of Marketing at Matthews Incorporated.
Okay. Let's go back to the garage story. Who were the people behind the inception of Matthews in the beginning?
Okay, I can tell that story. I'll just start with McPherson.
Sure.
McPherson Archery was a small archery company in southern Minnesota. It was actually owned by Matt and two other partners, and they ran McPherson for a few years. Then Matt sold to his business partners, and then McPherson sold again and moved to Alabama. And after that sale, Matt then started Mathews. Okay. And he had been building compound grips with a company called Great Grips. And he manufactured wooden grips that fit on the riser for several years, and that was a company that he had kind of after McPherson before he started Mathews. And again, that company is called Great Grips. We built grips for several other bow manufacturers, and upon the last sale of McPherson, it opened the doors for Matt to start a new bow company, and that's when we started Mathews.
So he started in a garage somewhere in Minnesota. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what were the early days like? What were you doing in the garage? What was Matt doing? Was he hand carving stuff? How did it all kind of develop? Where did he get his inspiration?
Well, at the time that we started Mathews, there was a lot of Fast Flight was new. Dyneema wasn't even available yet. Some of the string materials that were out there, the industry had moved away from teardrop systems and was moving towards all string systems and that fastened to posts in the cam. So timing was a major complication of compound bows, synchronization of the cams on both ends of the bow. And what Matt did is come out with a single cam system that virtually didn't require synchronization between the cams because the cam was working off one axis with an idler wheel on the top. So the single cam answered a lot of problems that were inherent with systems of the day, and it just simplified things, and,
Sure.
and it just made the bows virtually trouble-free at that time.
So was he in the garage just developing this cam over and over and over until he got it right? Was he using different materials or writing it down? How is he working his way through the research and development piece of that?
Actually, Matt's story on that and how that occurred was he literally, he's always designing. Matt just loves to design, and it doesn't matter if it's archery equipment or guitars or golf clubs or anything that he's interested in. He's got a way to make it better, or he's got a different way of completing a project. So he literally sat up in bed in the middle of the night and thought, oh my word, here's a way to take care of the synchronization problems. And he had the single cam system in his head, jotted it down in a notebook, and started to work on the system and build prototypes. And it didn't take any time to build the prototypes. And he had the single cam system patented and in place.
No kidding. So it was like an epiphany when he was sleeping.
It was a God-given idea that just it set him right up in bed, and he took note, and that was the beginnings of the single cam.
I love it when that happens, when you're laying in bed and you just come up with a great idea. It solves all kinds of problems. So, okay, so he experienced that situation. That's pretty cool.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
When did he start, or what were the types of materials that he was using for the prototype? Was it metals, plastics? What were we talking about?
Our thought process at Mathews was we were going to build the highest end bows, the materials of the day, and the designs and our concepts would allow. And we came out with a Mathews bow that was higher price than what most people were used to in the compound bow market. But it was a fully machined riser. It was the very highly designed limbs that had a lot of testing behind it, and we wanted to build the highest end, highest level of quality bow and arrows that we could possibly build. And our goal was that at some point in time, if we could have a company where we built 5,000 of these really high-end, high-quality bows, that would be a nice-sized company. Well, the second year we had, succeeded in the numbers that we had dreamt of one day having, and really Mathews has never stopped growing since.
Oh, wow, no kidding. What year are we talking about, Joel?
We started Mathews in May of 1992.
Okay.
And so it's been around for 22 years.
92, got it. And was that when the epiphany kind of came into Matt's head?
Yeah, I think Matt maybe had the concept of the single cam for a while before that. He's always designing. Like I said, he's continuously creating and designing and re-engineering and developing different ways of doing things better.
Gotcha. And when did you meet Matt for the first time?
Where I met Matt for the first time was when I was an employee. I was managing the local pro shop in Austin, Minnesota. And Matt came through the door, and that's where his partners were, and that's where they started McPherson Archery. So McPherson was a local bow company to Austin, and I was manager of the local pro shop, the kid that hung out and ran the bow shop.
Gotcha. How old was Matt when you first met him?
You know, I'm not positive, but I believe he started McPherson when he was 28.
28. So you were hanging out running a pro shop, and he just showed up and started to develop Mathews from there. When did
actually McPherson, that's where he started McPherson.
And you were involved with McPherson through the journey there as well, is that correct?
Right, yeah. McPherson was in Austin, and I had the pro shop, and then I went to school locally, college after high school, locally in Austin, Minnesota, and worked part-time at McPherson Archery. And then Matt sold McPherson to his partners, and then I actually went to work for McPherson full-time for a few years. And then when it sold again, I moved McPherson down to Rooten, Alabama, and got the shop set up and things running down there, and came back to Minnesota, and Matt started Mathews, and I teamed up with him. Gotcha.
And in the meantime, between McPherson and Mathews, Matt was developing grips. That's what you had mentioned before.
Correct. After Matt sold McPherson, and before he started Mathews, he had a company called Great Grips, and at Great Grips, he built a duplicating machine and built from blocks of wood grips that would we built grips for Bear, for High Country, for several other bow manufacturers. And we kept Great Grips as Mathews started. We continued to build grips for other manufacturers, but then Mathews started to consume more grips than what we could even create. So it got absorbed, and Great Grips just became our own grip manufacturing.
Gotcha. So you stopped making grips for other companies. You started making grips for yourself at that point.
Yeah, the demand from Mathews of our own grips was so high that we were unable to continue to make grips for other manufacturers, and
Gotcha.
The grip manufacturing just became absorbed into the Mathews company.
Yeah, without scaling up to something you didn't really want to do at that point.
Well, what's amazing is we were scaling everything up at the time because the growth was happening so fast that we were building twice as many grips as we did the year before just to accommodate ourselves.
Gotcha. Interesting. So Mathews really kind of took off, and this is May 1992 that it opened up, and 2 years later, it's going gangbusters.
Right. Mathews did grow very fast. In its early days, it grew extremely quick for the size company that we were. But, I think that we really cracked into a high-end bow market. The maturity, age, and level of bow hunters was up there, and the products available to them at a very quality, high-end part just wasn't there. The high-end bows was a market that we maybe tapped into that wasn't real available to the mature, very serious bow hunters.
Right. What was the thought process at that point where you knew you were going to be launching a quality product, but you also knew it was going to be one of the highest priced bows on the market? Did you have any fear about sending it out that way, or did you have a lot of market research done?
No. In fact, I'll give you a story. This is pretty interesting. At the very beginning of Mathews, we, of course, had been with McPherson, so we knew a lot of the retailers across America. And, pretty much when we started Mathews right out of the gate, we had 1,000 retailers.
Wow.
To work with that we were friends with and had done business with in the past. Sure. Well, Matt had the designs for the bow, but we were an upstart company. We didn't have CNC machines and all the fancy equipment back then. So we virtually worked with local vendors from the area, and we'd have this guy build us some axles, this guy build us some cams, these people put together some limbs for us. We'd have the risers machined at this machine shop, all to our specifications, of course. But we didn't invest a lot in the startup. We actually had those vendors supply us with parts enough to build 100 bow and arrows. And we scheduled those parts all to arrive one specific day. So when that day arrived and those parts arrived, we jumped on it, built strings, assembled bows, put all the parts together, and made 100 bows before we ever contacted anybody or told anybody what we were even doing.
Wow.
Then we sat down behind the phones and we called our retailer friends that had been loyal to us and helped us through McPherson. And we told them, hey, we got a new bow company. This is a brand new startup bow with a brand new system. It's called a single cam. And we sold all of those 100 bows COD so that we could get the money back in and run around and pay the vendors that had provided us the 100 bows worth of parts.
Wow.
So we paid those small vendors and then ordered another 100 bows worth of parts and did it again, and we were a COD only company until just really a few short years ago.
No kidding. So you had to. It was a little risky. Like you had to send it out, ask for the money, get it back, pay your vendors off, and slowly start building profit over time, so that you could then start not having to do COD 18 years later, something like that.
Right. But the whole COD thing, it was kind of funny. At first, we did it because, it was a good way to provide capital for a startup business. We'd send out the bows COD and we'd get the money back from UPS. Then we'd pay the vendors and we'd get some more parts and all that. But what we figured out real quick was it not only kept us healthy, because we didn't have to have terms extended way out there, but it also kept dealers real healthy. And it taught the dealers that they had the money invested in these bows up front, so that was a one on the rack that they were trying to sell. They had their money already invested.
Sure, kind of gives them some motivation to get it unloaded so they can get their money back.
That's right.
Yeah, that's a good method. I think something that we don't do a lot or haven't done. It's that credit thing. Can be a bit detrimental, so that's great. And so this whole thing took off 1994. You're sending, how many bows were you sending out? You only had 100 to work with, right, or 200 to work with?
Right. The very first year, 1992, I think we sent out like 500. Second year, we sold 1,500, and then it just kept on. It grew really, really quick after that. I mean, it was doubling and tripling in size. It had very, very quick growth. But, people right away seen the advantage of the system. You didn't even have to explain the system, really. Dealers could look at it and say, oh, my word, no timing. And like I said, timing was a huge issue back then, and it still is today with two-cam bows.
Right.
But the string materials weren't back then what they are today. So timing being a big issue, anybody that looked at the single cam system recognized right away, oh boy, this is a solution right here. This is trouble free. So the system just took off very quick.
Right. So you solved a major problem that was in the bow industry about timing.
Right.
And it essentially revolutionized the bow system at that point. Am I correct in saying that?
Yes. Yeah, it did. It for sure revolutionized archery. In fact, all the systems that are out there today are somewhat a derivative of the single cam, and for sure they're created to help somewhat solve the same problems that we were solving with the single cam system.
Right. Now, you mentioned that the strings are different today than they were then. We're talking not too long ago, just about 20 years. What needed to develop in the string component of the bow in order to keep up with the advancement of the single cam?
Well, string materials have just gotten better. I mean, there's just blends now, and there's just processes and wax contents, and just there's a lot of contributing factors on why the materials are better, mainly blends. But it's just a better material, and it's just more consistent now. And they don't have the stretch and the creep that they used to have. I mean, strings used to initially stretch, and then they would continue to creep for the entire time the string was on the bow. And now they've got materials that are much, much better at that, and you don't see that kind of stretch and creep as much. Although, like I said, even today, the systems do take into consideration timing because it still is a crucial factor on making the bow shoot properly.
Gotcha. So is it that the bowstrings introduced new material, or it's just the same old material just redone in different ways to make it more efficient and better?
Well, there are new materials for sure. There's new materials. There's different blends of materials that are combined to make the end string material better.
Okay, so it's 1994. You just revolutionized the bow industry. You've got some money coming in. You're sending out the bows, and you sold 1,500 or so in the first couple of years. And this was being sold all across the country at that point?
It was, yeah. We would, like I said, we had a pretty good knowledge of a substantial dealer base through McPherson Archery, because Matt, of course, and myself are both with McPherson, so we knew a lot of the retailers, and we knew the big accounts in the country that sold, specialized shops that sold archery equipment.
Gotcha. So move on, 1995, 96, 97. What's going on in those years? Are you trying to expand and keep the same technology, or have you started to research more technology, or are you just trying to make what you made better?
Well, it was, from the following years were really developmental stages. I mean, we continued to improve on the single cam, but for the most part, it was trying to keep up. I mean, Mathews was growing at, leaps and bounds. Like I said, the growth was amazing. In fact, we made Inc. 500 one of the fastest growing companies 2 years in a row.
Oh, wow. What year was that?
I'm not positive of what years those were. I think it was 96, 97.
Okay.
Something like that.
Gotcha. Because I just remember all of a sudden everybody was talking about Mathews. Like there wasn't a buzz in the archery industry for a long time since Fred Bear, and then all of a sudden everything that you mentioned was Mathews. It was the thing.
I think it really was a superior product to anything that was out there, because it was able to utilize the new materials that were available and not cause problems within the system. So, I mean, it was the highest quality products out there. It had technologies that solved a lot of the problems of the day, and it was high end. I think we reached into that mature market, and, a lot of the high end serious bow hunters gravitated towards Mathews, and there really wasn't, high end bows out there per se. I mean, there wasn't a high end and a low end. It's just everybody had a bow model, but this was the top of the food chain. I mean, this was the nicest bows available.
What was the entry level price point when they first came out?
When they first came out, I think we started at $450. It was called a standard. First year it came out, it was just called a solo cam. And then the second year, when we had another model, we thought we better rename that first model, so we called it a standard. And then we had model names from there out. But I think the standard sold at $450. And to give you an idea, at that point in time, most compound bows were $300. So, I mean, it was more expensive than what was out there because of the materials and the innovation and the processes that we put into building it.
Gotcha. All right, so you're $125 more than most bows at that point.
And we're selling a bow that is new, that nobody's ever heard of. It's a system that nobody's ever heard of.
Right.
It's a it was quite a boulder to move, because we really were the new kids on the block.
Right. 1994, 95, you're growing leaps and bounds. You're in one of your Inc. 500 fastest growing companies. What kind of pressures did it put on you as a core group of individuals? Was it a stressful situation, or was it just you couldn't be happier?
Couldn't be happier. It was fantastic. It was one of those things where, to be a part of something like that is just a really, really phenomenal. And it didn't matter if we worked 20 hours a day. And it was one of those things where I for sure had no issues punching out at 5 o'clock and working until 10 or whatever.
Right.
It wasn't about work. It wasn't about money. It was about building a company, and building a successful company. And everybody felt that way. All the first employees, a lot of the first employees are still here. I was the first employee. The second employee was Bob Ohm. He's still here, works in promotion. One of our very first employees was Mike Zeeble. He's here in marketing. And there's a lot of the original employees that are still involved with the company. And all of us just, it was not about a job or money or anything else. It was about being successful and making our products
Gotcha.
the best that we could make them.
So at the end of the 90s, you're kind of getting in the swing of things. Things are happening. Everybody's happy. You're loving life. And what did you do after that first couple of years when you're pulling parts from all over? Did you change the access point of the parts? Did you start making your own? How did the company start to evolve with just the basic parts to put the bow together?
Well, we moved to Wisconsin in 1996. In November of 1996, we moved over to Sparta, Wisconsin. And at that point in time, we were still jobbing out a lot of the components, but we were starting to bring things in-house more and more. And as we're talking today, we virtually build them from scratch. We are capable of building everything in-house and for the most part do.
Gotcha. So everything was built in-house. There wasn't any outsourcing, nothing. Everything was American-made at that point.
Oh, yeah. Everything's all components, all parts of Mathews and Mission bows are American-made. It's all built, and for the most part, it's all built here in Sparta. We job out very, very little. Very few of the components, if any, anymore. We build most everything in-house.
Gotcha. So you mentioned something just then, the Mission bows. The Mathews line, did Mission grow from the Mathews line at some point?
Yeah, the idea of Mission Archery was really to be able to utilize innovations that were still leaps ahead of our competition that Mathews had already moved beyond, and it allowed us to build a more cost-effective bow with real high-quality parts and high-quality innovation.
So it's kind of becoming it's the same company making a different kind of bow, but the basis for it is that it's just more technology.
Yeah, Mission. We started Mission in 2007. In Mission Archery, it some of the practices in manufacturing that our competition utilizes, we utilize in the Mission line, which we won't utilize in the Mathews line. For example, Mathews bows are all built from either forgings or solid billets, where Mission bows, some of the models are built from extrusions. Extruding aluminum and then machining it to net is an accepted way to build bow and arrows. It's what a lot of our competition has used on several of their models, but that's not how we're going to build a Mathews. The Mathews is way more expensive and complicated to build it from solid billets or forgings, but we build them that way because it goes right along with our mission statement. We're just going to build the highest level bows that we can possibly build.
Gotcha. So you got the Mathews line that's kind of staying to the old tradition of, and old being not old at all, 20 years old or so, but still kind of going back to the roots of what Mathews started in the beginning. Then you've got the Mission line that is introducing some of the ways in which the competitors are making bows, which kind of is in contrast to the Mathews way, but still, because let's face it, you revolutionized the country in bows, and you've now got a target on your back from all your competition. You're now the one to go after. So the competition takes your model and tries to recreate it, but finds cheaper and faster ways to produce it. And most likely, you need to come up with a solution to that problem, and the Mission line is the solution.
Right, and it's not only for Mathews. Basically, just as a basic, this isn't a rule, but Mission is 700 and less, and Mathews is typically 700 and higher in retail sales.
Yep.
But what happens there is our distribution plan is we don't utilize distributors or chain stores. We deal with individual pro shops, and that's our business plan. That's where we've always been. Is we're with the independents. We're with the pro shops.
Yep.
And the pro shops, they handle Mathews, and the Mission line helps them stay healthy, and it gives them a product that they can compete with the chain stores with, because the Mission line is the same distribution model. So it's also available only through independents. So here's an independent retailer that can now have the lower level, less expensive bows all the way to the very highest level Mathews brand.
Gotcha.
And it's only available through them. They are the exclusive distribution. They don't have to worry about the store down the street handling a bow that they're selling.
Right.
And so we provided the independent retailers a real high-end, low-cost bow, as well as the more expensive high-end Mathews.
Gotcha. So is it fair to say that you want to put your seal of approval on a bow that lives up to many of the requirements and aspects of Mathews quality, but wanted to produce a lower entry level bow because let's face it, not everybody can afford $1,000 bow.
Right. It's more of an entry level product that's available to the independent retailers that it's theirs and theirs only to sell, and it was more of a startup line. And it does, of course, it's a situation where if they start with a Mission, and then hopefully they aspire to a Mathews.
Right. That's awesome. So where do you go from here? You've got lots of competition. People have now utilized the single cam that you brought into the industry in the first place.
Right. There's what's kind of fun is a few years back we started a line. We actually bought the McPherson name back. Just
no
the
kidding.
name.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So McPherson Archery sold, and then those people bought Pearson Archery, and it went under the Pearson name, and then they sold McPherson name back to Mathews. And so we got the McPherson name, and it's like, oh, this is pretty fun. Let's start. Matt had developed a system, a 2-cam system, that has very, very little timing issue because of the AVS part of it. And so it stands for Advanced Vectoring System. So there's a 2-cam system that he developed that kind of deals with timing issues and synchronization issues. It's really a nice system. It's extremely fast, extremely smooth. And we thought, okay, here's a hot rod. We got the new hot rod bow out there, and let's utilize that McPherson name. So it's a Mathews, but we call it the McPherson Monster Series. So you're probably familiar with like the Chill and the Chill R and the Chill X and the Chill SDX. That's all under the McPherson Monster Series. And that's kind of our hot rods, the high performance, basically the speed bows.
Yep.
That are very nice shooting bows that address the speed issue. And then the single cam is more of the system that's just, real solid, smooth, comfortable shooting.
Right. Gotcha. So you've recognized that there's a timing, or way back there was a timing problem. You fix that. Then you realize that there's a demand for speed, and you fix that problem by putting that through the Pearson line.
Right, and we McPherson line. And
McPherson line, right.
It's a McPherson. And what's interesting is people are. It's funny because our history is so deep, and then people look at us and it's like, oh, those single cam guys are building 2-cam bows. Well, we were building 2-cam bows for years before we started Mathews.
Sure.
Right. McPherson line was originally 2-cams anyway, so
right.
We're not foreigners to how that works. We understand the makeup of 2-cam bows, and Matt is an incredible cammer and designer. So his systems that he creates are really usually the top level products that are available.
Where did Matt get his training in this? Is he an engineer by trade, or did he go to school for it? Where did he get this know-how?
Matt is an extremely interesting person. He's so he's just a super nice guy. In his education in camming and development and all this stuff is really he can't look at anything without tearing it apart. When he looks at something, he has to figure out how it works, and he retains that information like unbelievably. So if he's working on a project and 3 years later he runs into the similar situation, he remembers exactly how he dealt with it, in the past. Where he's really quite self-taught. But it's amazing what he knows. He can sit with a group of engineers. We have other engineers that work with us that Matt can sit right there and have a total conversation that is over my head. That he understands. He gets it. I mean, he just knows how the mechanics of everything work.
Very interesting. So there must have been some failures along the way. Not everything is a success. You have to fail in order to succeed. So what were some of the failures that you would say came about?
Oh, most of the failures that ever happened at Matthews, nobody ever saw.
Right. I would expect
we weed them out before they ever get to the public. But you know what? We always joke around and say this, that the way you learn how to build something is first learning how not to build it.
Right. That's right.
So we did that a few times. We built a lot of stuff that we figured, you know what? That's exactly not how to do that.
Right. I always say.
And then we simply figure out how that it needs to be built, and that's the direction we go.
Right. I've always said and still say that I rarely do anything right until I've done it wrong.
And that's right. Exactly. Yeah.
Yep. So you've got you still have challenges ahead of you. You still have competition coming in all over the map. What's your answer to that?
Well, there is some competition out there that is building some good products now. And there's a lot of information and technologies and innovation out there that will build a great bow. I think the trick to it is, stay true to your business plan and take care of the independent retailers, which is where we're at. That's our chosen form of distribution. And, we're loyal. We're loyal as a lab. Every direction that you look, you'll see consistency with Matthews. And we don't waver all over the board and chase numbers. We stick with the plan.
Gotcha. So you just kind of stick to the plan, keep true to your roots, and keep moving forward.
Right.
All right.
As far as innovation, innovation is constantly changing. And, Matt gets hit with that question all the time. And my friends always ask me, where are you going to go with bows? Where does it go from here? Because it's things are getting pretty well maxed out. I mean, you're kind of reaching a plateau. And usually Matt smiles. It's not, he's always got something cooking. He's always got another idea. He's always got another design. He's always exploring new avenues on how to make what's out there better.
Yeah. Is Matthews a public company or is it still private?
It's privately owned.
Privately owned. Is there any?
Matt McPherson, the sole owner, and Steve McPherson is our president.
Okay. And Steve and Matt are related?
They're brothers. Yeah,
brothers.
Steve McPherson, who is president of Matthews Incorporated, is Matt McPherson's brother.
Gotcha. So it's still a family-owned company, started in a garage. And as far as let's talk about some older bows. Do you have any particular favorites?
Well, there's been some bows. There's some real benchmark bows in Matthews. Over the years, there was a bow called the Outback. It was short for the time. It was short. It was, like 32 inches axle to axle and lightweight. And another bow that was out there was called the Ultralight. Really kind of put us on the map. And then the Outback. And then there was the MQ1 and MQ32 and Q2. And there's been a lot of benchmark bows out there. Typically, we'll have a real innovative year, and for example, the Q2 year, and then the SQ2 was a shorter version of the Q2, where it's a little bit softer innovation introduction, but it's a real quality bow as far as forgiveness and how it shoots and everything. So that's kind of our drill is we'll advance innovation and then support it with all the different little niche bows, and then we advance innovation again and then support it.
Gotcha. Now, I still have an MQ32. It was The first
great bow.
It's a great bow. It was the first bow I actually spent a good amount of my money on, and it's the only bow I've spent a good amount of money on. It's kind of like the old Maytag washer. You don't have to, you very rarely have to call in for a fix. I just recently had it tuned up, and the guy looked at me and said, "This thing's in perfect shape, and you don't have to do anything else. It's still shooting deer. It still functions just like it did the day I got it." So, is that
one of the things that I say and that I think about? Is some of the worst competitions that Mathews has is our previous models,
right?
Because you could take some of those previous models, maybe not as far back as the MQ-32, but you could take some of the previous models that are no longer in our lineup and reintroduce it and put it out there, and it's competitive with today's equipment.
Right.
I mean, we've actually moved beyond, and that's a little bit of what happened, why Mission came on board, because the Mathews innovations that are out there, some of the past stuff is still really good stuff. And so with Mission Archery, we're able to implement some of those innovations into a line that is very, very nice that Mathews has already moved past.
Yep. I bought the MQ-32 in 1999.
Probably 8.
Yeah,
8 or 9.
98, 99.
Yeah. Yes.
And I've never needed another bow. So that's got to be building in some of your own competition. Like the quality is so high, it might be the one and only bow you'll ever need to buy. So that's a challenge in itself to try to make more bows, and you just have to find more people that want to buy bows. I mean, there's always the few that want to buy new. I like to hold on to things a long time.
Well, and that's where we did see some of that, and that's why I guess it was 12 years ago now, we were implemental in starting the National Archery in the School program.
Yep, nice.
And we were very excited about the opportunities to get archery back into the school systems, and with the divisions of wildlife working with the state school boards and school systems, it worked out really, really well to reintroduce archery into SIAD programs, and then eventually move on to after-school programs. And the national tournament this year, there was 11,000 kids in one building shooting archery. Largest archery tournament on record. It's a Guinness Book of World Record, largest archery tournament. 11,000 kids with bow and arrows in an auditorium.
Gotcha. That's awesome. So you're going to continue to support archery programs across the United States to make sure that the industry and the sport continues to grow so that you can keep making bows for people that need them.
Right. Yeah. The National Archery in School program is a really nice part. I guess there's I may not have this number exact, but there's over 2.3 million students annually taught archery during SIAD through that program. And we have other programs like Center Shot. And Center Shot is basically it's archery in the churches. So it's the church systems through fellowship groups that have implemented archery into their churches, which is pretty cool.
Right, that's really cool. That's a nice. Basically, you're promoting the sport as well as providing for the sport. So that's key, instrumental. How many people do you have working for you now?
It fluctuates, but there is approximately 450 people at the McPherson companies.
Excellent. How big is the facility that you're working out of now?
It's constantly changing. We build McPherson guitars now as well, but the Mathews, the Mission bows, the Genesis bows. So there's a Brennan factory, there's a McPherson guitar factory, there's a Mathews plant, and then we just completed construction on a really large new machine shop, and there's a test area. So I would say there's probably 250,000 square foot under roof.
Wow. And so you've got guitars, you've got 2 brands of bows being made, you've got a brand new machine shop that's probably just going to be able to ramp up production.
And one of the fastest growing crossbow companies out there.
In a crossbow division now.
Right. The MXP crossbows are going like crazy. That's becoming very, very popular. And again, same distribution plan, independent retailers.
Right.
And so we're allowing those independent retailers to sell product that isn't available just anywhere. And they're doing really, really well for us.
That's very cool. So bows, guitars, crossbows, anything else coming down the pike?
No, that's really Matt's passions. The guitars have been around for a long time, and he's always built guitars and always built bows, and the crossbow is kind of a natural next step, because the prod or the bow part, that was right up Matt's alley as far as design and development, and he's got a lot of innovative ideas for that.
Gotcha. That's awesome. How do you keep the secrets secret?
It really is fairly limited on the people that know what's going on. Matt has his own R&D department.
Yeah.
It's not connected to the Matthews plant. It's in a different location, and there's just a handful of us that work in that department and help Matt and our working over there. They actually have the capabilities to build at the R&D department. They have capabilities to build stuff start to finish. There's CNC machines and everything at that location.
Gotcha.
And we also have engineers that help us with different projects in Florida, and that'd be Gary Simons and John Simons and Henry Gallup, and they're actually capable of building bows start to finish down there. They have their own machinery and everything down there, so they help us with other projects. And then there is an engineering team here at Matthews Incorporated in the factory that kind of takes the concepts from Matt, and this department figures out how to put it into production.
So it doesn't sound like there's any change coming soon. You're just going to keep on driving forward with new technology, building out your
it constantly changes, and I think I always look at it like there's always huge change just around the corner. But as far as what our goals are and what our business plan is, we stick to our guns. We're extremely loyal.
It's constant in that you're going to continue to be on the cutting edge of everything you do, or attempt to be, and apply the change where necessary. I guess that's the constant. The constant is change. You know that you have to change. You will change, and you're going to try to be the leader no matter where you go.
There's always new product around the bend, like I said, especially with Matt, and any of my fellow employees that hear this are going to just smile, because he's always got great ideas. I mean, he's got ways to make things better continuously. I mean, he always looks at even the stuff that he's completed. He's extremely proud of, but he'll analyze his own work and try to figure out what in the future might make that even better.
Wow, pretty intense individual. Does he get out much?
It's amazing. I don't know how he gets it done. He's really, really an amazing guy.
Well, that's cool, Joel. This has been awesome, and thank you for spending about an hour with us, just going over the ins and outs of Matthews. It's something I've always wanted to know about, and I'm sure there are a bunch of fans that buy your products and have over the years that always wanted to know the intimate story behind the Matthews brand, and now we know. So this has been fantastic.
Well, we're honored to be able to provide to the bow hunters out there the products that we make, and I appreciate you taking the time to talk with us here, and we appreciate all the support.
Excellent. Well, we'll definitely catch you again, and if there's anything we can do for you, just let us know. If you got a new product coming out, you want to kind of introduce it on the Big Buck Registry, we'd be happy to do that for you.
Sounds great. Okay.
Thanks again. Well, thanks to Joel Maxfield for joining us on the Big Buck Registry and giving us a history lesson in the Matthews Inc. Company. It's just an amazing story. It's a great American story. Don't you agree, Dusty?
Yeah, absolutely. It's Matthews, catch as if you can.
That's right. That is, and every year they come out with a great new bow. Of course, I'm still shooting my MQ-32, which has done me well. And as I said in the show, it's the only bow I ever spent a lot of money on. And I don't know if I'll ever need to spend money on another bow. It's that good,
Right. Agreed. You take care of, a Matthews bow is just like anything else. You take care of it, it'll take care of you.
Yep. It is kind of funny that if you make them so well that they become essentially so good that you can't sell another one in some ways. It's kind of almost a defeating prophecy.
Yeah, I agree. But, also the bow industry is so every year there's so much new technology coming out with a bow that, a lot of the hunters want the latest, greatest, best. And, these new bows are so forgiving that it's actually helping I'm not saying everybody is a bad shot, but if you have an unstable hand or, you're not the best shot, a new bow will actually increase your shooting abilities.
No question. The technology takes a lot of that, a lot of those variables out of the equation. That's awesome. Yeah. You're actually absolutely right. That's a very good point. And the way that the competition is, it's almost like bow wars now. It's like every company's got to advance, and they've got to answer for the last new wave or last new bow that came out. The next company's got another answer for that. So it really has become the great American capitalist society of bows just trying to beat the next guy, and it's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the technology has come a long, long way, and it's just going to keep advancing. And that's something that they can always tweak something on a bow that can be the new next greatest thing. So every year you're going to see new bows. That's a fact. It's happening every year.
Every single year.
You're going to see something new come out, and it's something that's going to help you. Take your hunt to the next level.
Yep, that was awesome. Thank you to Joel and Matthews for joining us and giving us a good insight on what's really going on the inside of Matthews Inc. You know what time it is, Dusty?
I think I do, actually.
It's time for the Chubby Tines Tip of the Week.
I'm going out there, and I'm going to tell you straight up from Jay and myself. This is the Chubby Tines Tip of the Week, but also this is something that's near and dear to me and Jay that we want you back to listen to the next show. Put your safety harness on.
Yes, live to hunt another day.
Yeah, there is nothing worse than a story about a friend, a relative, a brother, sister, a long distance relative or friend. There's nothing worse than seeing a story about a hunter that's passed or really got beaten up real bad because they didn't take that extra 3 to 5 minutes to slide on a safety harness.
Yep. Do you know of anybody that either died from a hunting accident like that or?
I don't directly know anybody, but I've heard 300 to 500 stories about people that either died, got broke their back, shattered their legs, can't walk now, they're in a wheelchair. There's just too many horror stories about not wearing a safety harness.
Yep, and a good friend of mine fell out of a tree stand, shattered his left leg badly. I mean, really bad. He's back hunting and walking again, but it could have ended tragically, more tragically than it did.
Oh, absolutely. And that's my Chubby Tines tip of the day. Put your safety harness on. It only takes a few minutes.
Yeah.
Save your own life.
I'm going to add to that just one on top of that, just a little bit, Dusty.
Absolutely.
Not only wear your safety harness, but check your safety harness at the beginning of the season and every time you go out to make sure that it's still in good shape.
Yeah, that's a great point too, Jay.
Because I think that we often forget to check that stuff. Yes, we have it, but then we just, we got it, we'll put it on, it's going to work. I think those things wear down over time, and if you're not upgrading your safety systems, that could fail fairly easily if you're not paying attention.
Yeah, agreed. There's always something there that needs a double check. It needs a triple check. Make sure that your safety rigging is up to, it's up to snuff and going to save your life, because it's a very good possibility that when you least expect it, you're going to mostly need it.
Right. Great tip. Awesome tip. The Chubby Tines Tip of the Week. Awesome. So how do we reach out to you, Dusty? How do we find you on Facebook?
Facebook.com/Chubby Tines Outdoors. You can also look me up at Dusty Huntneck right there on Facebook. Jay, how can the listeners get with you at the Big Buck Registry?
All right. So BigBuckRegistry.com is our main site. It's our blog site as well. On Facebook, it's Facebook.com/Big Buck Registry. Twitter is Twitter.com/Big Buck Registry. We're also on YouTube at Big Buck Registry. And if you'd like to call the show and leave some feedback, 724-613-2825. And if you would, please, if you like this show, go over to iTunes. Get into your iTunes account on your computer. Get on in your iTunes or podcast app on your iPhone or any iDevice, and go leave us a 5-star review. And it's a little complex, I have to admit. It's not the easiest thing to do to leave a review. But if you do love this show, please leave us some feedback. Let us know how we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. We want to hear from you.
Absolutely. Send us an email, too. You can send me an email, feedback at bigbuckregistry.com.
We love the listeners, and we want to know what you think about the show. We love to hear what you think. We really do.
Yeah, I love our listeners. I love our community. I love everything that's going on, and I'd like to hear from you guys because I want to hear what you want to know about, because we can do that. We can go find these people that you want to hear about, and we're always up for suggestions about how to change the show, even guests you'd like to hear about.
Yeah, absolutely. Just give us your input, good or bad. We want to know.
Absolutely. Well, Dusty, I think that's a night, man.
Awesome. I'm jacked up, pumped up, fired up, and I am all mineraled up tonight. I'm ready for hunting season to kick off.
That's awesome. Well, I just want to remind you who we have up next week. Heartland Bowhunter.
Awesome.
So if you know who the Heartland Bowhunter guys are, stay tuned because it's a great show.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And be careful with them buck bombs in the woods.
Yeah, don't spray yourself like Dusty and I did.
Hey, I'm Dusty Phillips.
I'm Jay Scott, and this is the Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Podcast. See you next week.
Can't wait.